everybody, it's Teresa with restixin.com, and today I have another adorable miniature ornament for our cozy Christmas bundled up Christmas tree. Today we are making miniature slippers. I am in love with slippers. I'm kind of obsessed with slippers because I tend to run a bit cold and I have all wood floors in my house. So when I am home, I am wearing slippers. I have a lot of options in my slippers. I'm actually wearing some right now underneath this desk. So they had to go on my Christmas tree to commemorate my obsession. These ones I think are so cute. More of this polar fleece that I've been obsessed with for this Christmas tree. And let me show you how I do it. Okay, so the first thing is you need a pattern. Would I leave you hanging? Of course not. You can use this one if you want, but the secret is I made this by grabbing one of Addie's shoes and tracing it. So if you have kids in your house, you don't need my help. You can just grab one of their shoes and trace it. But that's available for you if you want it. So you'll need to cut out 2 pieces with the shoe facing, like the toes facing to the left, and 2 pieces with the toes facing to the right. If you've got your polar fleece and you're cutting your fabric out at the same time with the right sides together, you can just cut out 4 pieces all facing the same way and it'll work too. It's miraculous. Okay, so with 4 pieces of the pattern cut out, you're also going to need 2 pieces that will make the little, what do they call that? The top, I guess. The top of the shoe. The upper, maybe they call it? Anyway. So these measure 4 inches by 4.5 inches for the size of the shoe that I'm making, but this is very unscientific. So if you're tracing a shoe, then just cut a rectangle and it'll do the job. The first thing you'll have to do is take these rectangles and fold them in half, hot dog style, as we used to call this in elementary school, so that you'll still have the 4.5 wide, but it'll now be 2 inches tall. And then sew that right down and turn it inside out. So this will encase it'll make a tube to encase all of your raw edges so that when you sew that toe upper, is that what it's called? The little part that goes across the top of your foot, it'll just be pretty and clean and no raw edges. So first we sew this. With those sewn, now we're turning them right side out and kind of flatten it so that that center seam goes right down the middle of one of those sides. And then we will pin them on the inside of our slippers here. Okay, so where's my pins? Here we go. Now, this piece is a lot wider than your shoe, so it's going to take a little bit of care when sewing. What we'll do is, in our little sandwich here, we'll line it up with the edges on one side and give that a pin. And then we have to kind of push all this stuff over to the inside. You'll have to kind of squish it up so that you can get the other edges to line up with the other side. And you'll just want to make sure that you kind of give that a couple of folds so that it's all out of your way when you go to sew it. You don't want any of that upper part to be in the way of your seam line, or else you'll just make a big tangled mess. There we go. Okay, like so. And now I'm just going to sew all the way around this, leaving a little space at the heel, about 1 inch, so that I can turn it all right side out. Now, a little word about how to arrange this so that this seam stays hidden. These pattern pieces are interchangeable, of course, because since there's 2 pieces, it doesn't really matter, which direction it's facing until you put this piece on it. So you want to pin this so that that seam is down, which means that whichever way you are sewing it is the way you want it to be seen. So you just have to take that in consideration as you're doing a whole bunch of these, that you do one, so like, okay, so I pinned this so that this one would be the right foot, and, oh, wait, the left It's all confusing when I'm trying to do it from your perspective. Okay, let's just talk about which way the toes are facing, okay? So I pinned this so that when it's finished, the toes are facing in. So this next one, I have to pin so that when it's finished, the toes are facing in. So that I'm gonna pin that with this seam against the shoe going this way, okay? That makes some sense. You do this once and I swear the light bulb will go off if I just completely confused you. So I'm gonna pin this one and then sew this little matching pair so that they'll have their uppers all fixed and together. Here's my two shoes all sewn up, my little slippers, and so I'm gonna turn these right side out, and then maybe if I confused you with all that talk about where that seam goes, then this might clear it up, okay? So I'm gonna pull this right side out. There we go. So now we've got a matching pair, and on both of those uppers, the seam is hidden. So if I did not take that into consideration and I just sewed everything the same way, then this is what they would end up looking like. See? So they would both be facing in the same direction and one would have the seam exposed. So you just have to do a little planning as you're pinning and make sure that you have your pairs coordinated. All right? So now I'm not even going to bother stuffing these because I think that they'll have enough shape on their own since I'm using this thick polar fleece. If you're doing this in a different fabric, you might want to maybe use a little quilt batting or something to just give it a little substance. But this polar fleece does the job for me, so I'm just going to tuck these raw edges in and then sew all the way around the shoe as best I can. I don't think I'll be able to get my needle all the way through there. Well, maybe if I turn it inside out, but I'm gonna do the best I can to sew all the way around. I might need to just leave some empty spaces right underneath there, but it's okay because that little upper part will hide it. See how that top stitching makes such a big difference? So since I wanna hang these as a pair, I'm going to sew them together right at that upper point. You do have to, this is another little bit of wrestling you have to do, but just a few stitches. You can do this by hand if you want. I'm just gonna shove it right through my sewing machine. Just a few stitches there in this upper part to keep them joined together. Once I finish that last step of sewing, I just tied a loop of fishing line to serve as a hanger and I'm done. I think that they are so sweet and I'm actually tempted to experiment with making my own slippers now in these kind of polar fleece. I think if I lined them, like if I put maybe a piece of foam or something in the inside, I mean, if it's just for around the house, this has my wheels turning now that I'm done with this. But I think they're so sweet and are gonna look so charming on the Christmas tree. I hope that this was inspiring to you to break out the sewing machine, make something for yourself and your family this time of year to celebrate this season. If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I will help you out, and subscribe to the channel so you can see what these look like on the tree when I've got the whole thing put together. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.